Hello, everybody. It is Thursday, December 8th, 2022, 9 p.m. What the Frick Live? What the Frick, Tom? We never have a show on Thursday night.
I know. This is great. Totally Thursday.
Yeah. It's a good thing. That means that we're so busy and booked on every Wednesday and Friday. I had to throw in a Thursday. So,
why not? I love it.
And the topics that we're going to be talking about tonight is going to be is hot off the press too. So it's fresh, it's new, it's something that everybody remembers a long time. But before we get into that, how are you doing tonight?
Doing great. I'm doing great. Like you, we're just like hitting the pavement, constantly moving forward. And your graphics, by the way, are brilliant. You do a great job at what you do.
Oh, well, that background cartoon thing is from Goat 2.0. I think it's what it's called, Goat 2.0. It's a conspiracy type thing. You know me and the conspiracies. But anyway, I just want to say thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you're watching via Facebook, give us a heart. Hearts show up more in the news feeds. Share this to your pages because this gets the truth out. If you're watching by Rumble, give us a positive Rumble there. That helps the show stay in the algorithm of Rumble. And YouTube, I'll be uploading this. I'm going to start pushing subscribe to YouTube, even though I lost YouTube once. I decided to start marketing YouTube again, and we'll be going live on YouTube probably next week or the first of the year. But subscribe to YouTube, always over there. Give us a thumbs up on there and ring that bell. That's what my son would say. So we thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you have any questions this evening, please put it in chat. If you're using StreamYard and your name comes up as Facebook user, go to StreamYard.com/Facebook. Give StreamYard permission to use your name and image so we'll know who we're talking to via chat. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We have an amazing guest tonight. He witnessed probably the most watched trial. I'm going to ask him once we bring him on if he knows the numbers of how many watched, if it surpassed OJ, because I know I worked at the hospital when this stuff was happening. We had all the big TVs. I was glued to it as much as I could in between. Even everybody in the waiting room was like dead silent watching the trial happen. His name is Clint House. Tom Althouse, last name is Emily Menshouse. So the houses are here. But before I bring him on, he was a former roommate and friend of Casey Anthony. I want to play the documentary that's out, the trailer, Casey Anthony, Where the Truth Lies, which I absolutely love the title of that. So let me share this right now. We'll play the trailer and then we'll bring Clint on. Okay.
Casey interview, A, B, C marker, saw sticks.
Why talk to me now when you're not getting creative control?
Is that the trailer?
I don't know.
That can't be the trailer. They said that was the trailer.
That was just.
Hold on, time out. That can't be. I just got punked. Let's play it here. Let's play this one. Let's do this one.
Yeah.
There we go.
It's happening. The most closely watched case, certainly since O.J. Simpson.
As to the charge of first-degree murder, not guilty. Casey's never told her story. Did she murder her daughter?
Casey interview, marker.
What do you think my question is going to be?
Why did I wait 31 days to call 911?
Did you do everything in your power to protect your daughter?
The public thought that Casey didn't want to be a mother.
The lies make you think that she did murder this child.
It's not the Casey that I knew. She loved that child. I lied. But no one asked why.
There we go. Okay, Casey Anthony, Where the Truth Lies on Peacock. And we have Clint House with us right now. Hello, Clint. Sorry about that. I got punked on that first clip.
It's okay. You know, that just watching the trailer, you know, for it just brought back everything. So, hi, my name's Clint House. That was kind of a hard intro. Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was in the docuseries. I've been in several documentaries about this. Obviously I was right there when all of this story began. I testified in the trial, and so yeah, I mean, I'm probably one of the only people on the planet right now that has gone through the story of Caylee Anthony. And I always will say Caylee Anthony. That's who I've been. That's what I've said this entire time. The story is about Caylee. The story is about Caylee Anthony. It's not about Casey Anthony.
And speaking of Caylee, Clint, how often were you around Caylee? Was Casey always with her too when they were around?
Not all the time. Casey was not all the time. I like babysat Caylee when Tony and Casey would want to go out on a date or something. And it wasn't like an extended amount of time. It was only like maybe 2 hours or 3 hours or something like that. Like it wasn't anything where Casey would and Tony would ask me like, hey, can you babysit Caylee all night long? It's like, no, that never happened. It was always just like a couple hours, like, hey, we're going to go out and get some lunch and, you know, just go and do things as like a normal little couple. And I'd be like, I'm just going to be sitting at the apartment. I'll watch Caylee. And so, yeah, I mean, I got to spend that little time with Caylee, taught her words, like the word alligator. Like many of your viewers are going to know, like I've said this so many times, that I taught Caylee how to say the word alligator. So, you know, that's really the only time that I got to spend with Caylee like alone. But then there was time where Casey would come over and had Caylee with her, and she'd just be running around our apartment like just a normal 2-year-old little girl would do. I mean, I've got a 6-year-old son and a 2-year-old son, so I've like gone through, you know, how kids act, and Caylee acted the same exact way as like my 2-year-old little boys do. Just bubbly, fun, a good time to be around. Just to watch is like as a child.
I have one question, and then I'll have Tom follow up. So, if you weren't around Caylee, just, you know, maybe alone for a few hours while you babysat there. So the 30 days that Caylee went missing, did you all start noticing anything about Casey not having Caylee? Did you all start asking her personally, where's Caylee?
I did.
Okay.
I don't know about the other roommates, but I've said this once again multiple times. I said to Casey, where's Caylee? I like her coming around more than I like you being here. And that was a joke. It was a joke.
Okay.
You know, it was my friend's girlfriend, and I was just making a joke. But I liked Caylee coming around. So I liked her being there. She was just like such a bubbly little girl, and it was fun to have her around. So, but it was more of a joke. But I said that to Casey, and you can go back and you can see me on the record multiple times saying the same exact thing, the same exact thing. So, I mean, yeah, I was one of the people that did question where was Caylee at the time.
Tom, you got follow up?
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's any. I bet the answer is no, but not to preempt it. Was there any signs of her feeling like she's neglected or feeling that she's seeking attention because she's not getting what she would nurture her.
Nope. Not at all. Not at all.
Were you ever around George?
No, I was never around George. I've never actually personally seen George or Cindy like in front of my face. Now, I did talk to George, and this is one of the things that the documentary did not talk about was because when I was there doing the interview, it took about 6 hours.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it was about 6 hours. But this was one thing that they never showed was after, the trial started and everything happened, I did get in touch with George Anthony, and I sent him an email being like, I'm so sorry that, Casey threw you under the bus like that. And he did email me back and was like, I really appreciate everything that you're doing, because this was at the time where I was really pushing for Caylee's law.
Mm-hmm.
And
yes.
That was one of the only ways that I could see that we could move forward and actually have some type of positivity off the death of a little girl was Caylee's law. And so that was at the time that I talked to George, and George said, I thank you so much for what you're doing. But now, like, seeing like all the other stuff and all the other information and knowing what Casey has said, and I've known since April, since we filmed that documentary, like what was all in it. So I've had this time to kind of like process all of this. But I mean, you're seeing this right now, Caylee's law.
Mm-hmm.
This I did not come up with this idea.
Mm-hmm.
Caylee's law was created by a woman, or was started by a woman named Michelle Crowder on change.org. It was brought to my attention that this was something that was online. I contacted Michelle and I said, this is exactly the way that we move forward. Is it okay if I take this platform that the media is giving me right now and run with it? And she said, yes.
Awesome.
And I go,
so
all right. Go ahead.
What was that, Clint? I'm sorry.
And yeah, I said, awesome. Like, I'm going to do it. So there was only like 3,000 or 4,000 signatures on the petition on change.org at the time. And I went on, at the time, I had every single news organization in the world wanting to do an interview or talk to me. And they asked me, what do you want to come on? And I said, I want 30 seconds to a minute to talk about Caylee's law. And they said, okay. Within 6 days, we had 5 million signatures on that petition.
Awesome.
And
see, this is making the failure to report a missing child age 13 or younger after 24 hours as a 4th-degree felony.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And I help write. Well, that's New Jersey's law.
Okay.
Florida is that's New Jersey's law. Florida's Caylee's law is it's a felon, like a 1st-degree felony to not report your child missing within 48 hours, because that was what we saw. That was one of the things that that the whole entire case kind of exposes. Like, it's not a felony to not report your child missing within 31 days. That doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. So I worked to take what we saw and attempt to at least close one loophole when it comes to our kids.
Mhm.
Well, this is amazing, and different states have different things. I don't know if Kentucky has Caylee's law. Maybe I should look into that and see if we can start doing something here in Kentucky over that. I'll write
I
it
have a
down.
question for you too. I mean, did they just close this case? The investigators just close it when they pinned it on Casey? Did they just say, "This we got our villain," and they just shut down all avenues of what really happened? I mean,
Absolutely.
I've had 2 sons lost, and I was shut off from finding out what happened to them. I was shut off by the system. And the thing is that it runs through your mind. What were their final moments? What did they go through? What did they experience as a parent? That's what runs through your head. So I'm missing a piece here where isn't anybody saying what happened? What was their final moments? What you try to empathize with the child and their journey. And if those pieces are missing, you want to fill those in, especially if you're a parent.
Well, that's exactly why I have been doing what I've been doing on social media since I was able to actually start speaking about it. I mean, because like I said earlier, I've known about everything that was going to be in the documentary since April.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just sitting there I was under a non-disclosure agreement with NBC saying you cannot talk about this publicly. Now, obviously, people, private individuals in my life knew what was coming, but I was warning people like, yo, listen, this is what's about to come out, but I can't tell you everything that's going to be in it. Right. And now that's why I am so adamant about reopening the investigation.
Good.
It needs to. Oh, go ahead, Clint.
That's the only way to go forward.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if I fully believe Casey. I would like to speak to her. That's something that, in my own personal life is kind of a hot subject.
Sure.
But if any of these allegations hold any kind of weight, why not reopen the investigation?
Yeah.
So that's the thing about law enforcement is they think they have their main suspect, and then they lose, and then nothing else happens.
Yeah.
How does that make any sense?
And as the clock ticks, you run out of time. It more time wasted, the worse it is. It's like a beating heart dying. You just can't let that sit.
Well, my biggest concern out of the whole story is the delivery guy. Was it the Upscott? What was he that went to the site, called the police 3 times, and finally the 4th time? I'm sorry. The questions I have the most comes from, was it the utilities guy, delivery guy, or something that's called the police 3 times to go to that area, and then finally, I think there was a lot of rain or something. It got swampy, and then, do you know the details behind that, Clint?
Yeah, I do. I know the details behind all of that. If you can give me 1 second. Stop! I got 2 dogs right now.
That's okay.
Lines, and I'm about to kick them out of the house. I'm sorry.
That's okay. You're good.
That was awesome. I'm glad it clarified that.
Well,
demons or what?
I put him on mute. Let's play this little clip where he is saying that there's nothing that Casey would say that make him change his mind.
Okay.
So let's play this clip real quick.
Caylee was given something and she didn't wake up.
Do you think she intentionally wanted to kill Caylee?
I don't think she intentionally wanted to. I don't think she intentionally wanted to, but she should be in jail because of Caylee not being here.
There is absolutely nothing that Casey could ever say to anybody that is going to make me believe that she wasn't in some way responsible or involved with Caylee's death.
So the lies make it hard to not think that she did murder this child.
When the story broke and the nanny's name got dropped, Zanny the nanny, I stood up and said she was using Xanax to babysit her kid.
I fully believe that Caylee was overdosed with Xanax.
Did you ever give Xanax?
No,
Caylee?
I never gave Caylee anything other than cold medicine when she had a cold. That was some concocted bullshit story, whether by the media or someone affiliated. Trying to piece things together that don't fit into anything because.
Wow.
It froze up there for a second, but that was the clip too that you were saying that you wouldn't believe anything that Casey would say to make you change your mind, or you wouldn't believe that she's involved in some way. You know what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
Clint? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was all me. That
Well, it kind of
was-
makes sense. It sounds like a street drug, you know.
It made sense at the time. You know,
What? Yeah, go ahead.
It really made sense at the time, because the media and how just crazy all of this was, like, that just it made sense to me.
Sure.
And I think there's still more to this story. I don't think that we know everything, and unfortunately, like, for me, like somebody who's living this story, I don't even know if I'm ever going to find out what actually happened. So but
Right. You've had a change.
watching all that was really hard.
You've had a change of heart, right? So what is it that hit you? What was the eye opener? What was the thing that, was it something you felt? Was it something you observed? Was it something you learned later? What caused you to reflect?
When I found out that George Anthony was the star witness for the grand jury behind closed doors. So out there in the middle of this massive news story where everybody's paying attention, he's like, oh, my daughter is innocent. She didn't do anything. But then behind closed doors, he's arguing to a fucking grand jury that his own daughter needs to be put to death.
Wow.
I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out.
I think he's trying to cover his tracks.
Yeah.
If it's like that, I swear I do. There's no way. There's no way. If I have a son too, we all have children. If my son did something bad, it was horrific, and there was truly, if death penalty it was on there, I'm gonna fight. If it's an accident, you know what I'm saying? So if it's an accident, and I know it's an accident, I am not gonna push the death penalty whatsoever on my kid. Ever.
No, absolutely not. I would never.
So
never.
He lies
like,
about everything.
If I've got two boys, okay, and if one of them committed just this heinous act, say murder or something, I would say, I would testify against him, being like, yeah, my kid probably did this,
Right.
but I would never argue for the death penalty.
Right. Right.
I'm never going to do that. I would rather see my kid back behind bars, back behind the glass when I go and visit him. That's what a parent would do. But I would never be so hypocritical about how George Anthony was.
Yeah. Is there a clip of that? Is there a clip?
I don't think I have a clip of that. I can look.
I would love to see what he sounds like. Hear what he sounds like, what he looks like. I can read a lot into, I think a lot of people can, into the actual presentation.
And see, that's what a lot of the people who are so against reopening the investigation, they're like, no, Caylee did it. Caylee, I watched every single moment of the trial. Caylee did it. Well, watch the documentary.
There's a moment, Clint, in that one series on Peacock where it shows this one girl watching the screen waiting for the verdict. She's in a bar or something, and she's looking so hopeful and excited. And when they say innocent, she's like, ugh! It's like people wanting to feed off of others' misery, and they feel safer or better because someone else is going to suffer. It's like they're cheering for a football game.
Yes. So let me give you a very prime example of what you just said. So a day ago, I had a young woman who was commenting on my TikTok page, and it was just vile, just mean, just going at me for anything that you possibly could because of the docuseries. So I took a second and I looked at her profile, and I saw that she was in postpartum depression.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of going to her comment and just lashing out at her about what she was saying, I just said, hey, I took a second. I looked at your content. I see you're going through postpartum. My wife went through the same thing. I'm sorry for what you're going through.
Mm-hmm.
Automatically, tune changed.
Mm-hmm.
She came back and said, I'm so sorry for the things that I've been saying to you. Yes, that means a lot to me for, saying what you did, and going through something like this, where part of your life is in the public. You have to kind of balance yourself between the people who would try to hurt you and the people like her who are hurting on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just trying to push their feelings out towards somebody else just to get it off of themselves. And that's been one of the hardest things to kind of balance here is dealing with people like that. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm one of the only people who has consistently been for trying to find out what really happened to Caylee, but still, I've got all of these other people over here on the other end of the spectrum that are only watching while I'm living, and I'm having to kind of deal with that. So,
do you get a sense that there's going to be? Oh, I cut you off.
Oh no, that's okay. That's okay. Go ahead.
Well, it's what irks me is a sense that people you've been around this story with for so long, that there's almost a coming foreboding sense of disappointment if a truth surfaces where Casey's not guilty. I mean that it shows for a fact. Do you think there's this feeling that a majority of people feel disappointed in that because they've latched on to the feeling of she's the bad girl?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cognitive dissonance. It's like they made their mind up way before even the jury gave the non-guilty verdict.
Yes.
And the media played a big role in that.
Well, that's a good point. The media played such a big role. Not to step on you, but it's like if the media gets on the bandwagon on something, that makes it suspect. Once the media pushes a certain issue, I tend to think that then they are picking the falsehood, because they always do this. Mainstream media does a push always in the wrong direction, and they're always going for what they want to gain. And I think they saw ratings going up, and whether truth or not, they're going to feed it a certain way to make the biggest profit off of it. And I think that makes me think that this poor little girl. I'm so glad you want to reopen the investigation, because I think her ghost can't rest. I mean, it's just like this isn't right yet. This isn't done yet, and the media has just signed, sealed, and delivered, and got all these vigilante public character assassinators to just latch on and feel better about themselves by putting down an innocent person, possibly.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I have a question, Clint. Since George is part of the good old boys club, police officers, detectives, all that kind of stuff, investigation. and how he and Cindy were both allowed to sit in and watch the trial, and yet both also testified. Do you think there was any kind of good old boy system going on where they allowed him in there because of his previous work?
Yeah, absolutely there was. And so let me give you some little bit of insight into how that first day of the trial played out. So we were told, me, Tony, Cam, and Nate, all of the roommates were sent into a room together. And we were told that we were not allowed to see what the defense's opening statement was, or what the prosecution's opening statement was, because we were still underneath a gag order at that point.
Okay.
So we were told that we couldn't. Well, state of or the county of Orlando, I don't really give a shit if you know this now. We actually ended up leaving and went to a pizza place that was right around the corner from the courthouse. And we watched the whole entire opening statements of everybody. So we had absolutely no idea that Jose Baez and the defense team was going to talk about how Caylee drowned in the pool and how George Anthony was molesting Casey. We had absolutely no idea. We weren't supposed to see that, but we did. And I really don't care if I admit that. Like, what are you going to do? Charge me? But so we saw like all of that play out. And then we all testified on the second day of the trial. And
how did you feel when you heard Jose Baez say that? Because I remember where I was and where I was standing watching it, and it was like, no, I'm in the hospital, and everybody's like, it's Jose, and we all sit there for a second and watch, and you couldn't hear a pin drop. We got dead quiet when that happened.
Yeah, it was like that the same way, and all of us, like when we watched what the opening statements were, we were all just like, bullshit. Because we had heard so much about, or we had already been involved in so much of Casey's lies at the time. So, going to what you said, like of where, like I kind of changed, was hearing the reason why these lies were told. And
I have this. I have a clip. It's about the compartmentalizing.
Yes.
You play that?
Hold on. I'm gonna play it. Hopefully it doesn't break up this time. I don't know why I'm having an internet issue tonight, but
I think we're gonna get hit a little bit because there's certain parties that won't want this done.
That George took the stand as many times as he did.
You may talk about George stand.
Would you ever testify against your child in any situation?
Yes, I would testify against my own child if I thought my child did something wrong. And the only reason why I believe that he did testify was because of the allegations that were made against him.
Have you ever sexually molested your daughter, Casey Anthony?
No, sir.
Liar.
Yeah, you can see it.
Liar.
It was hard for me to believe the abuse allegation because of every other lie that she told us.
If there is no abuse, there's no explanation. But when we talk to the psychologists who deal with people who've been sexually abused from a small age by a parent, they describe a kind of a mind control that the parent has over that child. And they also describe a child that results who has the ability to go into these compartmentalized worlds, and they can lock up the knowledge of one world, one reality, and move into another. And they often do that. They compartmentalize to the point where they seem like a compulsive liar.
Compulsive liar.
You could see that was
That's tough. I got chills watching this.
Yeah, powerful.
Yeah.
I have to admit, that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's huge of you too.
Yeah, it makes tons of sense. And like, if you haven't watched the documentary and you listen to this, I highly encourage everybody to go watch it. And because she explains the Universal Studios, those media pictures, all that stuff. You also will find out about the duct tape with Caylee that wasn't demonstrated properly. I mean, her attorney talked about that a lot, where the duct tape was not actually put on Caylee's mouth mouth while she was alive.
It was found next to her body.
Yeah, next to the body, wasn't around her mouth.
There was so much more too that was said during the filming of that
interview.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot. There was one point where I know they showed Cam stopping the interview and saying, like, I need to go and walk away. But I did the same thing. I had to stop and I walked back to Alex, who the director, the one that's the woman that's talking. And I looked her in the face and I said, I assume you're the one that's been talking to Casey. And she said, yes, I'm the one that's been talking to Casey. And I was like, have you looked her in the eye and do you believe her? And she looked back at me and she said, yes, Clint, I believe her. And every one of the people who were there in the room, all of the cameras, the people with the boom mics, everybody looked at me and said, we believe her too. So to hear this shit that just got dropped on me live on camera, and to see other people who are saying we believe her, like that's really why you just saw, when they played that, like that's raw emotion. That is real raw emotion that I was displaying. I had no idea about any of this going into it. Like all of it, like that's when you think something for 14 years and then have a wrench thrown into it, being like, guess what? You were wrong. That's hard to deal with. And that's what everybody saw. Like and I'm still there too. Like there is more to this story than what is being told. And I am not going to stop ever until we find out what truly happened to Caylee and somebody is brought to justice.
Right. See that
who it is? I don't know who it is, but there's a missing piece here.
Right. Well, I was going to ask you who of your roommates was closest to her, but obviously I'd say it's you, because you're trying to. I'm really hit right now. Hit by this. You're trying to actually lift her, raise her and honor her. So
Yes. And that's all I've ever been trying to do.
So have you talked to the other roommates now since the documentary's come out? Did you all talk before the documentary? Did you all stay in contact with each other, and then do y'all talk now?
Yes. I've talked to all three of them, Nate, Cam, Tony. I haven't talked to Tony since this documentary came out, but I've talked to Cam. I almost talk to Cam every other day. I talk to Nate a couple times a week, but Tony's the one that I haven't talked to yet, and we'll see how that goes. I'm sure that's coming down the pipeline. But I feel like because I have been one of the most outspoken people attached to this story about finding out what really happened to Caylee, And then with Casey finally breaking her silence and saying something that is probably only going to make sense, that the next chapter that's going to happen is going to be me and Casey talking.
Right.
I hope it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a terrible question. Maybe I shouldn't even ask it, but I want to know what turned up during the examination. Like, what did they say about little Casey or Caylee?
Caylee.
What they reveal? What they say?
On the examination of when they discovered her body?
Examination of her autopsy, such.
Pretty much they found her in a trash bag. It's situational things. With a blanket around her, there was duct tape that the media stated was on her mouth, but it was never on her mouth. And what what's super interesting though is that Lee, Casey's brother, finally talks to one of Casey's attorneys and tells them how George, the dad, would bury the pits. And he would bury them in a blanket, put them in a trash bag, and put duct tape around the top of the bag.
Oh my God. Wow.
So, in people, I've never been physically or abused in any way, but I have been emotionally, mentally abused, and I have protected my abuser in many ways. And it's called Stockholm Syndrome. And since he stepped up real quick, I'm just going to play this clip. What is Stockholm?
It is a strong, positive, and favorable attachment that a victim has to their abuser. It is a survival strategy. It's a coping mechanism. This develops due to the threats that abuser makes against the victim. Some of the signs of Stockholm Syndrome: failure to cooperate with police, very little effort to leave or escape the abusive situation, giving the abuser whatever he or she wants, learned helplessness, feeling sorry for their abuser, viewing the abuser in a positive light, very difficult to detach themselves from the abuser. Abusers will treat their victim very kindly. This back and forth between bad and good behavior creates a trauma bond. On top of that, the abuser isolates their victim from their support system. All of this causes the victim to live in a state of cognitive dissonance, which means that intuition has been damaged.
So intuition has been damaged. So this 30 days of Caylee being gone, and if it's the truth and way that Casey describes, that George handed that body to her, it was heavy and everything, but he took it back.
It didn't resonate with her.
And then she trusts this abuser. Because that still bothers me. That still really bothers me, because George found the car. George smelled what he thought was a dead body. Right. That's a very distinct smell. I worked in healthcare. I know the smell of that. You can't forget it. And once you're around something like that, you always remember it. It was Cindy that finally called the police. Cindy. He didn't even call the police. If I smelled the dead body right then, I would call the police.
90% of the evidence that was used against Casey came from George.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's
90% of it came from George,
Yeah.
a ex-homicide investigator.
Wow.
Somebody who would know
how
to get away with murder.
Yeah, and know what to do. What the proper procedure would be to address a situation like that,
and have friends.
You know what I noticed too, I'm not trying to do a witch hunt, but I'm saying that when I saw that clip Emily played where George is interviewed and he's asked, did you abuse, he takes that moment where he's like, which is often what a person does when they're trying to formulate how to present their answers so they don't look like they're lying. Now, if you're innocent, if you asked me, Tom, did you kill your sons? I go, no, absolutely not. I love them. You don't, I wouldn't go like this. No.
Yeah.
Well,
does it?
It would be an immediate response.
No.
Yeah, you don't go like this.
Absolutely not. Like, no, that's how I would. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
He's so dramatic. He made this whole thing dramatic, though.
He
used it for fame and fortune in many ways. He bought a new boat. He made the funeral a I don't know, look like a show that you go to pay for entry.
Yes. And you know,
the feeling people get when they get away with something. When they get away with something, they're going to brag. They're going to show off. They're going to be giddy. They're going to, if they feel like they got away with something,
weird.
You suddenly see a change of behavior. And you're talking about buying a boat and just putting on a show. I got away with it. I got away with it.
And
it wasn't pervades. Then
it wasn't even just like a regular boat. It was like a very expensive speedboat.
Yeah.
So it sounds like somebody's celebrating. Not
why?
mourning. It's celebrating.
Why?
It's celebrating.
You know, okay, I have gotten accused this entire time of any interview or any documentary that I've done or anything that I have talked about being like, you're profiting off of Caylee's death. I haven't made a single penny off of any of this. None of this. And this has been a major aspect of my life for the last almost 15 years. And I haven't made a single dollar. But yet this family makes thousands and thousands of dollars off of selling the merchandise.
Selling merchandise?
Enough to buy a fucking speedboat.
Oh my!
And I'm the bad guy? No.
Well, he also had an affair with one of the girls that worked with their group too.
And he also tried to commit suicide. So
and he had a money issue, the money stuff that was put in this documentary and things, and try to blame it on another country mafia group or something, mob group. I can't remember. But, you know, this is all classic signs of psychopath.
Yeah.
Narcissistic psychopath.
I have this in my own family. In my own family, this is going on with our situation. And the ones that are doing the crimes, they act this way. The boasting, the showing awards. Yeah.
You think that he was weird answering that? Look at how he is at Caylee's funeral here. I'm going to play this for a second.
This is disgusting. This is disgusting.
And so many of you that never got a chance to actually hug her, smell her hair, smell the sweet sweat when she came in from outside.
Oh my God.
To hear her call me JoJo. Sure, I was grandpa, but I was JoJo to her. Some days when I wouldn't maybe just pay attention to her for just a second, she would get right on my face and, JoJo, Grandpa JoJo, George. She knew me. She knew how to push me to smile at her and hug her. I miss that kiss on the cheek, that special hug that I tell everyone it's so great to get a hug from someone, but to get a hug from a small child, that gives me energy like you couldn't imagine. Herky sang a song here just a few months.
It's like I'm watching a pedophile.
Yes. Yes. That's a fucking pedophile. That is a pedophile. Oh my God. Like,
it excites him to get that hug? I'm sorry. I was watching that going like, does anybody have eyes or ears? Unbelievable.
Gives me energy like I've never had before.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's disgusting. I've never, like, I love my babies. I love my niece and nephew. I love them, but I have never, ever thought about describing it in that way whatsoever.
Unbelievable. I'm just blown away. He belongs on Epstein Island or whatever it is. It's like unbelievable. Unbelievable. And he gets away with it probably because of his position with law enforcement.
Well, yeah, law enforcement.
He knew what to do. He knew what to do. He knew that, you know, he could do and frame Casey the way that he did. And I believe that the only thing that Casey is culpable for is not calling police during that 31 days. I think that's the only thing that she's culpable for. Do I think she's guilty of killing Caylee? Nope, I don't. Culpable, totally different thing.
I could almost go ahead, Clint, finish.
But I really do, after like hearing that, her father was the state's star witness to the grand jury about killing his own daughter, and then seeing just so much more of what he was saying during that time. No, I think he's a fucking pedophile.
I think so too. And I highly encourage people to go back and listen to Casey's phone calls with her mom and dad through the jail and watch him. Don't watch Casey. Watch him whole time.
Right.
Watch him. Use discernment. Need to have discernment. Tom, I'll let you go ahead and follow up what you were saying. Then I have one more question to ask Clinton.
Well, I mean, it's just, I forgot exactly what I was going to say. It's so disturbing that it was so evident. The language is not normal language that man's using.
No.
And that he's giddy, like he's getting away with something.
Yep.
And to buy, like I said, he's not mourning, he's celebrating. When you go out and buy those type of items and things like that. And there's what I keep getting a sense of. I'm a writer, producer, this kind of thing. You know what's missing from this film? It's a scene where he goes and talks to Casey and says, I think it's best, honey, that we don't talk about this. So if they don't talk about this. There's a missing scene where he goes and talks to her and says, it's best you don't talk to the police about
Well,
this.
that's why we need his phone log. That's why we need
we need the record.
His phone records.
There's a missing scene.
And that's what I just said like a little bit earlier. Like there is a missing like piece of the puzzle here
from the script.
Of the script. This is like a really bad movie that we're watching, but there is this missing puzzle piece, and it's been really hard on me to be like the person who is so attached and close to this story to come out in defense of Casey. But I don't think she killed Caylee, but I do think that she knows what happened to Caylee.
I think so,
and
too.
I don't think she's ready to tell the full story of it.
I can tell you what I think happened.
But
I think he did something to her.
Yeah.
And then covered it up. Put her in the water. I think George was doing something with her.
Yeah.
And put a pillow, because Casey talks about that. Casey also had aftermath effects of seizures and stuff because of that, which nobody knew. I didn't know about any of that. So I think similar to that, then he puts her in the pool and runs around the house. That's what I think happened.
Goodness gracious.
So my next question, we've had about 5 minutes here. Oh, go ahead, Clint.
No,
whatever you're saying.
No, go ahead. I was going to say, Tom, seriously, it is absolutely like insane that after this amount of time that we're starting to really kind of find out what happened. And like I said, this I don't think that this story is over by any means.
It's just beginning.
I know it is just beginning. It is just beginning.
Yeah, it's like my situation. I won't go into it now, but it's the same thing. We're just the documentary going on, things kind of thing, taking off. What I'd like to see is how George will react if suddenly the public was fed this information on George. The case is opened up. We're looking at George. There's all these things about George. I'd like to see how he behaves.
Oh, he'll be major victim. He'll pretend suicide and all that kind of stuff again.
Yeah, he'll do it again.
The psychopaths do the same cycle, same threats over and over. It's the same cycle.
Well,
so
it matters to themselves. Yeah, that's all that
with
matters.
this documentary that's come out, which I think that Casey's attorneys would have done it to where she wouldn't be sued for defamation or anything like that. Do you think George is going to file a lawsuit against Casey about defamation or anything?
Oh yeah. Oh,
well, that's
you think he's going to?
Go ahead. Casey's with a defense team. The defense team is working with her. They gave her a job. And so the defense team is employing her from what I gather, and giving her a life.
Hold on. Would his lawsuit give justice, give meaning to possibly reopen the case? I mean, these defense attorneys are super smart.
Yeah, that's what.
Are they working this in some way to get the case reopened?
Because they're keeping her close.
Because if he's saying it's false, well, how can they prove that it's true, truly true? Reopen the case.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I got to say it again.
Calling in for it? I mean,
I'd love to
Jose
see the movie.
Baez, we didn't give him enough credit, I don't think. I mean, he did an excellent job, but now seeing all this stuff, he was phenomenal. Like, I want to see him.
Yes. Yes. And God bless you, Clint, for standing up for that little girl and her memory. And you're absolutely right. It's not about Casey. It's about this poor little girl. And her story needs to be known. And I have one question real quick. Do you have anything that stands out that we might not know, to lift her memory, to honor her, something she said with you, something she did with you that we might immortalize, something we can lift about her that you have memory of, just like a sparkle in the eye, or something she said to you, or favorite food? I don't know. Let's bring her back.
Pink Panther.
Oh, look, Pink Panther. I thought you were going to say alligator.
No, Pink Panther. She loved watching Pink Panther.
What's the reaction she would give when she watched it? Like, what would she say?
That same like kind of 2-year-old reaction where they just stop and just watch for a second. You know, that was her favorite, was the Pink Panther. So yeah, you know, with the memory for Caylee, yeah, just remember the Pink Panther.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that, because I'm going to remember that. Yeah,
I will remember that too, most definitely. So, Clint, I have contact if anybody wants to follow you on Twitter, House of the Doc, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then you have TikTok too, House of the Doc 2.0. On TikTok, you can follow there. Well, I remember seeing the clip in there, the Casey Anthony. I found an old post. I tagged you in it. I found an old post of me posting about this documentary in 2021. I'm like, I don't know about this. Like, I don't know if I agree with this. But after what I'm telling everybody, please go watch this documentary. It's on Peacock. If you don't have Peacock, it's $5 a month.
And that's what I've always like, you know, I told people, like when I posted that first video, I think it was like in August, because I've been doing TikTok for a long time and I've been banned so many times. I've lost millions of followers just because of the other content and the other stuff that I talk about. And I did not say anything about my connection to this story until the video that I'm sure that you guys saw. It went viral, like 6 million views on it. And I told people, like, just wait, like there's something coming that, you know, is gonna maybe change your mind. And Emily, I and Tom, I am so glad that you guys actually took the time to watch it and talk about it, because that's the only thing that matters, is that we're talking about it again. Because going back to what I'd said about, this is about Caylee.
Yes.
This is about Caylee. So if we continue to talk about it, then maybe, just maybe, we're going to find out exactly what happened. And, you know, the whole entire docuseries on Peacock, like, threw a whole, like, just this.
Oh, just bombshells after bombshells in it.
Just, yes, yes. And I've known about this since April.
You did a wonderful job.
You know what? I wish, Clint, we could watch George's face while he's watching that documentary.
Me too.
Oh, I'd love to have caption clips, you know.
I think he's guilty as shit. I really do.
I know, but I don't know if he watched it.
Wouldn't it be something to see his face in a box as he's watching? like watching this show.
You would see the same glares he always done, but
I'd love to see his face in a jail box.
Yeah. With you on that.
Well, Clint, we appreciate you coming on here and telling your side and everything with it. Obviously, I'm going to stay in touch with you. Hopefully, Caylee, and you get to speak with Caylee. Hopefully, she sees some.
I've already gotten a little. I've gotten a little conversation between me and Caylee, so we're working.
Good.
Good.
I'd love to see you on your program, Emily. I'd love to see Caylee and Clint on, because I think it could be a safe environment.
I would love Caylee,
safe
but
environment,
but
and
she don't have to. But I trust Clint enough that he can come on and tell me what happened.
Clint did the same.
Yeah, he did a great job. You were super authentic in the documentary. Reactions real, I can tell. So, Clint, we appreciate you coming on and telling this. And you can't wait to see what's going to happen now. This is just the beginning. And we appreciate you. So go follow Clint on Twitter and TikTok. And it's in our description. We'll let you go and we'll close out the show. So thank you, Clint.
Nice to meet you, Clint. True House.
It was very nice to meet you, Emily. You're awesome. I really appreciate everything that you're doing. Hope you guys have a really good night.
Love you.
Totally believe you. Totally believe you, Clint. Totally believe you. So.
Bye. All right, there we go. Clint House with the Caylee Anthony. Wow. I do have one video, and it kind of sums it up with this, and then why I believe Caylee. This girl did an excellent job putting this together on TikTok. So I'm gonna play this one last video, and then we'll close out.
Good. Smell her hair. Smell the sweet sweat when she came in from outside. Kiss on the cheek. That special hug that I tell everyone, it's so great to get a hug from someone, but to get a hug from a small child, that gives me energy like you couldn't imagine.
Way she was found.
Places when
this is a little low.
Would die, Dad George would wrap the puppy in a blanket, put it in a trash bag, and duct tape the trash bag, and we would bury them. Caylee's found in a trash bag with duct tape and wrapped in a blanket.
Take a look at the way he's staring at her during this call.
What's your gut telling you right now? Well, you have this thing. She's okay. Okay, and your gut tells you that she's close or she's hiding. She's not far. I know in my heart she's not far. I can feel it.
It was almost like a death glare, like you better not fuck this up. Why did he want the death penalty for his own flesh and blood over something he assumed and said was an accident?
Would you testify as a star witness in a trial that would get your child death for that accident?
Why, if you did think it was an accident, would you want the death penalty?
Why did he want his daughter to die for an accident?
I have no idea. Covering up his own tracks or something, I guess.
Your own daughter. When they asked why no one got his phone records.
I was like, why did we not get George's phone records? And I don't know if they subpoenaed them, but I sure would have loved to have had them. When did he leave the house? You know, did he go around the corner where the body was dumped? What time? When did he get to work? I mean, I don't know. I don't know why they either didn't have him or didn't turn him over to us, because I don't know.
I just don't remember. I was able to verify, yes, we did have George Anthony's cell phone records. Those include cell tower locations. No, they do not have cell tower information.
Nobody did it, and he was a police officer back in the day. So is there some sort of connection where they somehow bypassed it? The very end, when he was like,
Maybe forgiven by her and my son and other family members or friends that I care so much about. Forgive me for what I've done to all of our lives.
What you did to Caylee, or what you did to Caylee, or both.
See, and then so I believe Caylee. I'm sorry. I've gotten some flack on TikTok too with some of my comments, but I believe her now, and this case needs to be reopened.
I'm with you, Emily. I'm saying reopen the case. Reopen the case, and you got your guy right there. So just
Well,
reopen it, get the records. Yeah.
Speaking of true crime, we have the true crime king on tomorrow night, William Steele. He's on A&E's hit show, Inmate to Roommate, and he actually has some books out and everything about Ghislaine Maxwell and some other crazy true crime people. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Please share this out to all your different social media platforms. Also be available on our podcast. We are available on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Apple iTunes, Spotify, and more. We appreciate everybody for tuning in tonight. Thank you so much. We'll see you here tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with William Steele, True Crime King. Say that 5 times fast. Thank you all.